Another topic that came up was, of course, the scooter and e-bicycles demo project.
Yes.
And we decided to expand that pilot program as it is. Why was that?
Well, the big reason is we want more data. This demonstration project is all about collecting data so that at the end we can regulate these devices appropriately. And while they proved to be pretty popular thus far with over 300,000 rides taken in Arlington, we think that there's a huge benefit by having the upcoming summer and fall months where they're probably going to be most utilized to really collect some data so that we can have informed regulations. And we have to regulate these by the end of the year. Otherwise, the Commonwealth of Virginia has actually enacted some law this year which would provide for regulations of scooters and electric bikes. But if we don't act by the end of the year, it's the Commonwealth's rules which prevail. So we think it's important to make sure we have as much data as possible so that we take advantage of our window to figure out how these should work in Arlington.
What kind of data are we actually talking about here, in addition to just how many trips are being taken?
Yeah, so we're looking at how far these trips are, which is a key thing to understand what transportation solution they're solving. So, for example, if the trips are a few hundred feet or a quarter mile, well, that seems to be more of a recreational use. But if the trips are a mile or more, maybe it's solving a key issue with connecting people to transit. Also depends on where those trips are going. So can we tell that they're going to homes, or are these replacing bus trips or metro trips? So we want to look at all of those things. And we also definitely want to make sure that the rules and regulations that we have as part of this project are being followed, making sure that responsible parties are riding them. So lots of things that we're looking at.
Yeah, I think it's important just to touch a little bit on what in Richmond the legislature did, and also make it clear that we want to make sure we regulate this properly. So we extended the pilot not so much because we want to get it right and have all the protections that we can, while also recognizing that the way state law is written, this is not something that we can prohibit. And I think most folks would recognize that if it's done safely, this is can be an addition to our multimodal piece. So we're extending the pilot. We're also seeing how we can make sure we can regulate well. And to your point, Christian, we extended the length of the time when we can get input, and we've had a lot of input, but through June 30th, and folks off the county website can, of course, find how they can send us an email and provide their thoughts on this process.
Is there also any kind of regulation being discussed in terms of how many of the scooters? I know what started a lot of the, not controversy, but questions, concerns, is that they just kind of showed up in the county one day. It wasn't a gradual process, or there wasn't kind of a launch or a county-led effort. They just kind of showed up on the sidewalks.
That's right. And until we actually created this demonstration project, Kara, we would have no ability to determine how many of them were in Arlington or how they were used. The law was so silent on this issue as to create basically anarchy. There could have been as many as the companies wanted to allow. So we worked with them to put a box around it, to say, look, we want to study this, we want to do it right, we want you to limit the number that you deploy in Arlington. We opened it up to as many companies as wanted to participate, but none of them were allowed unlimited scooters here. So our demonstration project was to limit something that was limitless. And so we're thankful that we had that cooperation from the companies. But now this is going to lead to what exactly are going to be our regulations, whether they are able to be on sidewalks, at what speed. As Matt said, we can't ban them. That will not be an outcome because the state will not allow it. But if we act by the end of the year, we can create some clear limits.
Anything surprise you so far with the data?
Well, for me, I was surprised. I think we were at 1,500 different entries, different citizen input, different emails that had come through, which is a lot more than we get in a lot of our outreach. And then I think it's more than doubled. And so we've gotten a lot of input. And I think it's fair to say not everyone has been excited. We got some pictures of scooters. I walked by near Teddy Roosevelt Island. There was a scooter that was off the wood path, kind of dangling in the sides.
Okay.
There's some concern, but I think that folks want to share with us what's going on. And I also think we should say that each member of the board has really expressed within what we can enforce. And we actually had some discussion of this on Tuesday. We want to enforce and make sure that safety is paramount. And so that's part of what we're doing.
And I got to tell you, that's what surprised me the most, is not really the data, it's actually the observed experiences of how people are using them. So if I can, Kara, let's do a little public service announcement. A, if you're under the age of 16, you should not be on a scooter. If you are on a scooter, it's really wise to wear a helmet. The scooters are not really designed for multiple people to be on them at one time, especially if one of them is your infant. So if we could, these are all things that we've seen, observed, and we would just encourage people, as much as we can do a lot to regulate the scooter companies, we also really need for people to exercise good judgment when they use them.
Some common sense and responsible use.
That would be helpful.
That would be good.
That would be helpful.
And I think essential, because the first I've seen, I came upon near Lee Highway an individual who'd fallen off a scooter coming down, and I got there a few minutes afterwards, but there was a nurse already tending to him, and he had a cut on his head. So the safety message and the helmet, if you can, those, and making sure that these are not for children to be using. There's real concern because there are instances where we've seen serious injuries, and so that element of personal responsibility we have to make sure everyone hears.